everyone. Today I'm gonna make a beaded choker for my sister's birthday. Last week I was working on my beaded pencil and the border of it has very long bugle beads. I'll go get it to show you. Here it is. But yeah, the border is these extra long bugle beads that I usually don't use in my normal beading. They just happen to be the perfect size for this. But as I was working, I would hold it up to my neck and think like, oh, this would make a really cool beaded choker. So basically that gave me the idea to make a beaded choker for my sister's birthday, and I thought I would share the process if anyone else wants to try to make one. I do have a couple here that I started in different colors. When I'm buying beads, I want them, well really when I'm buying anything, I want it to be secondhand, and beads was kind of tricky. Like if you go to a thrift store, you're probably not gonna find beads. Sometimes you'll be lucky, but especially like the specific beads that you want to be using. So if I want something, I tend to go to eBay or Etsy to find vintage secondhand or like dead stock beads. But yeah, I think it was 2020, like I remember it being during the pandemic, and I was volunteering somewhere and simultaneously bidding for a box of beads on eBay that was part of someone's studio clean out. So it was just this massive box of like an assortment of all kinds of beads, and I really wanted it. This would replenish my supply for so long, and I really want to transition all of my materials to being secondhand. That's where these came from, and until now I had no use for these like very long bugles, but perhaps for chokers. This color story is very much my sister. I also have a test choker in these pretty blue. I don't know if she doesn't, I might let her pick what color she wants, and then the other ones sell in my shop. But anyways, I'm going on a tangent. Let's get started. I'll show you how to make these. Let's talk about the materials. So I'll be using these long bugle beads. I have them in a blue shade, a purple, an iridescent black, and then this navy blue. I ended up going with the navy blue. And just to get an idea of how long they are, they come to measure 3/4 of an inch. For the other test chokers, I included seed beads for it, but this one I'm just going to use the long bugle beads. I have a tape measure to measure my neck. My sister and I are about the same size, so I'm going to take my measurements, and I plan on adding adjustable ties, so it's kind of better if it's smaller rather than too large. I'm going to be beading on some scrap fabric that is a little bit larger than the measurement of my neck. I have this really beautiful brocade that has been in my sewing stash for a very long time. While I was making this, I did have to change my fabrics because it was too difficult to see my drawing marks on it. But just to show you, like, as so long as you're comfy with the fabric, it doesn't matter what kind of background you have. It's mostly going to be hidden behind the beads after we're done finishing the piece. That's a bead that's loose and I have to fix it. As with all my beading projects, I'm using a beading needle and just regular cotton sewing thread that I would use for making clothing. Bead needles are pretty difficult. They're very thin, but personally I think it makes the beading process so much easier. I'll be using a blue thread to try to match my beads better. I've got a pair of scissors for cutting my fabric as well as the threads as I'm beading, and then I forgot to mention I'm also using a ruler. I filmed footage of myself drawing out the measurement of my neck on this fabric, but it turned out you couldn't even see it anyways because of the coloring, so I decided instead to use black cotton fabric sheets that I had from a thrift store. So what I'm doing now is drawing out the measurement that I took around my neck. Ideally, I should have shortened it by about 1/2 inch to 1 inch because I made it too long. When it's the exact measurement, I don't know, I guess it stretched out or something. If you do it shorter and have ties for adjusting it's okay if it's too small, because you can just let the ties loosen out the necklace how you want it, and if it's too big, it kind of hangs a specific way. If you like it, that's cool, but it's kind of more of a necklace and less of a choker. And I'm using the same metallic paint pen, the extra fine tipped Molotow paint pen that I always use for my dark fabrics. I think I have another video where I put the exact name, but I'll put it on screen. And this is the general shape of what I'm going to be beading. It's a very long rectangle. The height of it is 3/4 of an inch, the same size as the beads, and the length is my neck measurement. Oh, I forgot, I'm also using an embroidery hoop to keep it in place. I don't have one that's the same size as the measurement of my neck. This one was a 12-inch, so I'm going to have to move it as I bead. The process of this is fairly simple. I have my needle threaded and I'm going to basically do one bead at a time. Usually with beading, I'm very adamant about reinforcing my beads with extra stitches, but because these are so straight and like, I don't know, it's a very straightforward project, I'm just adding a bead onto the thread and then making a stitch and then repeating the process of adding a bead onto the thread. If I have to go back and make something a little more sturdy, I will, but really this is as simple as it is. You can add seed beads to both sides of the bugle bead, but I'm keeping it simple for this one. Here's where I'm at so far. Got a little more to go, and then I'm going to be moving the hoop over this portion once I get to the end of it. So I just wanted to show you what the back looks like, because as I'm stitching where I'm coming up, I'm putting the needle back in again. There's not long stitches on the back of this. Okay, so I'm tying a knot and I'm going to thread another long piece of thread and keep going. Okay, I've beaded enough where I can move the hoop over to finish the last bit of beading. Okay, I just finished beading. I did stop before my drawing just because I went over the measurement that was 13 inches. I'm not quite sure if my sister's size is the same as mine, so I'm gonna take it off the hoop now. And now I have to start the finishing for it, which I haven't tested out yet. So first things first, I'm gonna cut it off of this sheet with about an inch of seam allowance on all sides. Okay, I'm making some bias ties. It did occur to me that I could just have used ribbon and that would have been way easier, so perhaps if you have ribbon around, I would recommend using that instead of doing this. I'm going to use a regular sewing needle and thread to stitch these ties to the ends of the beaded choker and then essentially slip stitch the fabric all around it to neatly finish the back of it. Slip stitching the fabric is the last step to this, so I'm just gonna get that done and then I'll show you the finished product. Okay, my slip stitching is done, so I'm gonna knot my thread, cut that off, and then show you how the choker came out. Alright everyone, that was the video. I hope you enjoyed some of my thoughts as this was finished. I wish I had made it a little tighter. Like, my neck measurement was 13 inches and I think I accidentally drew it a little longer, so it is slightly too large. And I thought that could be cool because I don't like things that really touch my neck anyways, but this is for my sister. And I think she does like a nice choker that would like sit on her neck, and then also you get more of the shine. So I might end up making another one for her anyways and putting this one in my shop for someone who maybe has a larger size neck or who likes it to sit lower the way I like it. But overall, I think this was really fun. I'm gonna make a lot of these, put them up in my shop. If you try this project and share it online, please tag me in it. I'd love to see your beaded chokers. This could also be a headband. I feel like that'd be really fun. Yeah, you have a headband or a choker. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your day, doing whatever you're doing, making stuff, whatever. I will be back with another video soon. I think the next one I'm gonna do is a talk about what materials I use and where I get them. Yeah, see you next time. Bye.